Imagine that some technologies that were once very important are no longer used. Welcome to Dead Tech, a show about the fascinating past of old gadgets that changed the way we lived. Let's look at the top 20 technologies that were once cutting edge, but are now forgotten. From noisy dot matrix printers to the sleek but short-lived Google Glass, prepare to be taken back in time by these forgotten wonders. Number 20. Floppy disks. In the 1970s and 1980s, floppy disks were the most popular way to store data. They were common in homes and offices all over the world. It was thought at the time that these magnetic storage devices could hold a huge 1.44 MB of data, but because they were weak and easy to break, they were quickly replaced by solutions that were more durable. Floppy disks are no longer used because USB drives and cloud storage offer much more storage space and reliability. So many people still think of them when they think of the early days of computers. Number 19. GPS units that work on their own. In the late 1980s, standalone GPS units were a big deal because they gave drivers accurate directions for the first time. These things were necessary for road trips and finding your way around new places. But as smartphones and cars with built-in navigation systems got better and easier to get, fewer people wanted standalone GPS units. GPS units are no longer needed because most modern smartphones have them built in, along with many other features. Number 18. iPods. iPod from Apple changed the way we listen to music when it came out in 2001. It changed the way people store and play music because you could carry around thousands of songs with you. However, as smartphones got better at storing and streaming music, the iPod lost some of its appeal. The once iconic iPod is mostly useless these days because most people listen to music on their phones. Number 17. Internet via dial-up. In the early days of the web, dial-up internet was what everyone had. Dial-up, which was notorious for its slow speeds and the sound it made when it connected, was how millions of people first connected to the internet. That changed quickly, though, when faster broadband and fiber optic internet connections came out. People remember the days of dial-up with a mix of nostalgia and frustration. These days, high-speed internet is the norm. Number 16. Projectors with a stand. Do you remember the big projectors you used in school? People used to use these all the time in the office and in the classroom to project pictures and notes onto a screen. But now, digital projectors and interactive whiteboards have taken their place because they are more flexible and useful. Overhead projectors are a thing of the past because classrooms and meeting rooms today have high-tech digital displays. Number 15. Car phones. In the 1980s and early 1990s, having a car phone was the height of cool. At the time, these big gadgets were a new idea because they let drivers make calls from their cars. As cell phones got smaller, cheaper, and easier to get, though, people didn't need car phones as much. These days, cell phones let us talk to each other easily from anywhere, so car phones are a thing of the past. Number 14. Payphones. Payphones were once common on street corners and in public places, so people could make calls while they were out and about. Since cell phones came out, payphones are becoming less common. Payphones are almost extinct because cell phones are so easy to use and convenient. However, some are still around in some places as a nod to the past. Number 13. Airphones. Do you remember the phones that were built into airplane seats? Airphones let people make calls from the air to the ground, which was a luxury back then. But since cell phones and Wi-Fi on planes have become more popular, these gadgets are no longer needed. Airphones are a thing of the past now that people can use their smartphones and the internet to stay in touch. Number 12. Dot matrix printers. Dot matrix printers used to be common in offices. They were known for making a lot of noise and printing poorly. Most of these printers have been replaced by inkjet and laser printers, which are more efficient and print faster and better. With its loud operation, the dot matrix printer is now a throwback to the early days of printing. Number 11. VHS tapes. A lot of people watched movies and TV shows on VHS tapes from the late 1970s to the early 2000s. People would watch their favorite movies together around the VCR. VHS tapes, on the other hand, became less popular when DVDs and digital streaming services came out. Today, VHS tapes are a nostalgic holdover from a different time when people watched movies at home. Number 10. Cathode ray tube, CRT TVs. For many years, CRT TVs were the main attraction in living rooms all over the world. For their time, these big, heavy sets had the best picture quality. But when flat-screen LCD and plasma TVs came out, they changed the way people entertained themselves at home because they were so thin and had better picture quality. CRT TVs quickly became outdated, and now they're just a reminder of how TV technology has changed over time. Number 9. Fax machines. In the 1980s and 1990s, fax machines were necessary to send important papers quickly over long distances. But as email and sharing digital files became more common and useful, fax machines became less popular. They aren't used very often in modern offices because digital ways of communicating are faster and more reliable. Number 8. Segways. There was a lot of excitement when these two-wheeled personal transporters came out. Tourists and police officers alike liked them. Even though they were very popular at first, Segways didn't catch on with many people, and production stopped in 2020. They didn't last long because they were too expensive and didn't have many useful uses. They are now just an interesting side note in the history of personal transportation. Number 7. Typewriters. Typewriters were the main way people wrote documents before computers and word processors. These mechanical tools were necessary in both homes and offices. But when computers came out, typewriters became useless. Typewriters are now a nostalgic reminder of a time before computers and are sometimes used for their old-fashioned charm. Number 6. Personal Digital Assistants, PDAs. PDAs were the first smartphones. They had basic features like calendars, note-taking, and managing contacts. PDAs were popular in the late 1990s and early 2000s, but smartphones eventually took their place because they had more features, like phones, internet access, and more. PDAs remind us of the early days of digital technology that we could carry around with us. Number 5. Google Glass. There was a lot of excitement when Google Glass was first shown off as the future of augmented reality. It was an ambitious project by Google. These smart glasses let you take pictures, record videos, and browse the internet without using your hands. But Google Glass didn't do well in the market because people were worried about their privacy. It was too expensive, and not many people were interested in it. Still, it's an example of a futuristic idea that didn't quite fit into everyday life. Number 4. Betamax. Sony's Betamax tapes went up against VHS in the format war of the late 1990s. Betamax had better video quality than VHS, but VHS won because it could record for longer and cost less. Betamax eventually fell out of use as VHS took over the market. When it comes to technology, Betamax is a reminder of a time when better quality didn't always mean more sales. Number 3. MiniDisc. Sony made MiniDiscs in the 1990s as a digital alternative to cassette tapes. They had better sound quality and would last longer. However, they couldn't compete with CDs and the new MP3 format. MiniDiscs eventually went out of style because digital music storage and streaming services were easier to use. These days, audiophiles and tech fans collect them as a niche item. Number 2. LaserDisc. LaserDisc was one of the first optical discs used to play videos. It had better picture and sound quality than VHS tapes. Even though LaserDisc had technical advantages, it was expensive and bulky compared to the DVD format that came after it, which was smaller and cheaper. LaserDisc quickly became outdated, but it is still remembered as a leader in the development of home video technology. Number 1. Nixie tubes. Nixie tubes were an early form of electronic display. They used glowing tubes to show numbers and other data. They were often found in scientific instruments and the first digital clocks. Nixie tubes, on the other hand, became less popular as LED and LCD displays became more common and better at what they did. Today, people who like old electronics and collectors love Nixie tubes. That concludes our tour of the 20 most out-of-date technologies that once ruled our lives, but are now lost to history. From the hum of dial-up internet to the cool but useless Google Glass, these gadgets remind us of how quickly technology changes. If you liked this trip down memory lane, please subscribe to our channel for more interesting topics and hand-picked lists. Thanks for watching. In our next video, we can't wait to talk about more interesting topics with you.